Hello, how are you today? Are you okay? I'm also very well. Back here to talk about sports. Today we're going to talk about the career of athletes in general. I mean, we're going to devote 2 lessons in this part of the course to talk about the performances, the achievements of athletes in their career. And well, I want to show you now what we're going to be dealing with today, in more detail. We're going to be learning today how to ask for information about an athlete's sports career. Look at the word career. It's, when we talk about what the athlete has done all throughout his participation in this sport, then we're talking about a career, okay? And look at the spelling, C-A-R-E-E-R. So we're going to be asking questions. We're going to learn how to ask for information about this topic. And then, of course, we're going to learn also how to give information about the same topic. So these are the 2 things we're going to be learning today: asking questions and providing information, giving information about an athlete's sports career. To begin with, I want to dedicate, I want to take some minutes to talk about how we ask questions in English, and this time, in the field of sports, that is, asking for information about what has happened in the athlete's career for a number of years. So I'm going to show you now some questions that journalists would normally ask an athlete, when he or she has to interview a very important, personality in the field of sports. Let's see. Maybe you want to copy these questions. These are some of the questions you would need to ask if you ever have to interview an athlete, or if you're not a journalist but you want to know about an athlete and you have the chance to talk to him or her, you would probably ask some of these questions of this athlete, all right? So the first question is a very general, it's a very important question, I would say, because it has to do with the time and the place when and where this athlete, became involved in this sport. And we have here an expression, to get into. To get into, that is to begin practicing a certain sport. And then I have underlined swimming because I wrote, well, of course, I could only write only one sport here. And you can change and not use swimming, but use athletics, boxing, gymnastics, shooting, judo, hockey, any sports. You can just use here in the place of swimming in this question, all right? So then, when and where? So I have included here 2 questions in only one, actually. So it's when and where did you get into swimming? To get into. Es como cuando empezaste en este deporte, cuando te iniciaste en este deporte. Okay? So when and where did you get into swimming? Second question, very important, because sometimes we only think about the athlete and we forget about the coach. And coaches are very important people as well. There's always a good coach behind, a wonderful athlete. Athletes by themselves, in very few cases, they can excel if they do not have a coach, helping him or her along his or her career. All right? So then, second question is, who was your first coach? And then number 3, when did you win your first competition? And then the athletes will have to think back in time and then, remember the time when they started and then they competed at different events and then they won the first medal. So this is, the question we would ask if you want to know this, all right? If you want to get this information. Let's go back again to the screen. So when did you win your first competition? And look at this question with did, because you're asking a question in the past. So then you use did, in this question. When did you win your first competition? Number 4, here we have another passive voice. Were you inspired by a famous athlete when you began? A lot of athletes, when they start and they become involved in one sport or they get into one sport, they often have someone, like an idol, somebody that they follow. I'm sure, girls who have got into athletics, they of course think about Ana Fidelia Quirot, who's been our best female runner for many years. And so you would have, girls would have Ana Fidelia as, the person who inspired them, to get into athletics. All right? So number 5, when did you become internationally competitive? To be competitive means, to come to a certain level in which you can compete and win. All right? That is to be competitive. And then you would ask here, when did you become internationally competitive? You were probably very good nationally speaking, but then, you needed some time to become internationally good. Internationally competitive. And then number 6, why did you become interested in this sport? Maybe this would have been a question you would have asked before. When you started asking this athlete questions about the beginning of his or her career. All right? So let's take now a few more seconds to finish copying, because these are, I think, important questions you would need to know. All right? Let's do some, let's copy now. So these are only some questions. I'm going to show you more now. Let's see. Here we have 4 questions, but the information you're asking for is actually maybe the same for 2 of the questions. There's only one difference here. Let's take a look at them. Number 1, did you ever have to stop playing due to an injury? What's an injury? Una lesión. You know that many sportsmen or sportswomen, sometimes they have injuries and then they have to stop for a while, or sometimes they have to stop forever. They have to quit the sport because of this injury. So the question here, the first question using did, would be asked of a competitor who has retired already. Because if you ask using did, you're asking in the past. So if we compare questions 1 and 2, we have a difference. The second question is, have you ever had to stop playing due to an injury? It means that we're talking here with an athlete who is still competing, somebody who has not retired, because the use of the present perfect indicates here that we're talking about, the career of an athlete who is still in competition. So then we have the 2 questions here. They're quite similar, but there's a very important difference. Let's look at them now. Questions 1 and 2. Fíjense que aquí la diferencia entre las preguntas 1 y 2 es muy pequeña. Y está en la estructura gramatical que se utiliza. Fíjense que después que ya ponemos la palabra you, bueno, hay una ligera diferencia en el uso del verbo, pero bueno, es en esencia lo mismo cuando usted lo ve escrito, pero hay una diferencia. La primera pregunta que se hace con pasado y pasa igual entonces con la pregunta número 3. Fíjense que las preguntas 1 y 3 usan el pasado simple, y es porque se trata de preguntas que se hacen a deportistas que ya no están en activo. Son cosas que ocurrieron en su vida como deportista y que como ya no están en activo se utiliza entonces el pasado. And then questions 2 and 4 are, questions you would ask of an athlete who is still in competition. Somebody who's still active. Somebody who hasn't retired. All right? So then number 2 is, have you ever had to stop playing due to an injury? Number 3 is, how many Olympic gold medals did you win? How many Olympic gold medals did you win? How many Olympic gold medals have you won? For example, if you were to interview Carl Lewis, I think we talked about Carl Lewis here a few days ago. If you were to interview Carl Lewis, would you ask questions 1 and 3, or would you ask questions 2 and 4? What do you think? Carl Lewis was an Olympic champion in the 1980s, and he stopped competing some years ago. So would you ask him questions 1 and 3, or would you ask him questions 2 and 4? Of course, if you're talking about someone who's not competing anymore, you would ask questions 1 and 3, because these are questions using the simple past. Okay? Of course. So did you ever? How many gold medals did you win? Did you? These are for people who are not competing anymore, and questions 2 and 4 are the ones you would ask of someone who's still in competition, somebody who's still active in sports. All right? I'm sure you have time to finish copying these questions. I'm going to go now to some more. Let's see. Here we have some more questions. And these are also very important questions. For example, the first one up here reads, is there a sports tradition in your family? We know that in many families there's a tradition, in the field of sports, and then you see, for example, the mother and the father were sportsmen, women, and then now, the children are, also involved in sports. For example, the captain of the Cuban volleyball team, Simon, he's the son of two wonderful basketball players. So it means that, this tradition ran in the family. I mean, that was part of, the topic of conversation every day at home. And then he learned, he grew up, in this environment. And for that reason, I'm sure he became involved in sports himself, all right? So second question is, was there a time in your early career in which you thought you wanted to quit? This is a very complex question here. There's a lot of information here. Was there a time in your early career, at the beginning, in which you thought you wanted to quit? What is the meaning of quit? That is to stop. You didn't want to go on anymore. So quit. Esa palabra quit significa dejar, abandonar, en este caso el deporte, de lo que se trate. Se recuerden que esa palabra la hemos utilizado en otras clases, en este curso y en los cursos anteriores. Incluso cuando hablamos del hábito de fumar, decíamos, you should quit smoking. Quit means dejar de hacer algo, abandonar algo que se ha estado haciendo por determinado tiempo. So then here, the question would be, was there a time in your early career in which you thought you wanted to quit? That has happened to many athletes. Maybe at the beginning, they did not do well, and they said, well, this is not what I want to do. I want to do something else. But some, after even they thought about this, they decided they wanted to continue. And we have champions. We've had champions, who went through this bad time of, thinking about quitting the sport, and they, eventually became very good athletes. All right. So now number 3 is, how do you train for major events? Major events, same as important events. So the word major here means important. All right. How do you train for major events such as the World Championships and the Olympic Games? Such as, tales como, such as the World Championships and the Olympic Games. We learned how to pronounce the word world in our previous lessons, so I don't want to talk about that today because I think you know already how to pronounce the word world. So, as the World Championships and the Olympic Games. Next question is, how did your life change after the Olympic Games? Many athletes, the glory of sports, comes once you've been at the Olympic Games, and why not, once you've been an Olympic champion. You've become Olympic champion. And life changes, for many reasons. It has to do with, being popular, being famous, and how athletes, can really get used to this new, let's say, way of living, Everyone knows you, and of course, your life changes, all right? And then last question is, which is your immediate goal as an athlete now? Immediate goal. El objetivo inmediato que usted se ha trazado como deportista. Many athletes, I wouldn't say many, some athletes who have been, top athletes for many years, they have won everything, Olympic Games, World Championships, everything. Now, all they have in mind is just retiring. Why not? But some still want to compete and, win more gold medals. So, what's your immediate, and look at the spelling of the word immediate with a double M. Immediate takes a double M, but you pronounce only one. Esta es una palabra, la palabra immediate, fíjense que tiene doble M en la escritura, pero se pronuncia una sola. Eso pasa con muchas palabras en inglés que usted ve la consonante doble. Yo diría que en un elevado por ciento, más de un 90% de las palabras que tienen la misma consonante puesta 2 veces, pues esa consonante se pronuncia una sola vez. Hay algunas excepciones, como la palabra, por ejemplo, accept, aceptar, y la voy a escribir en pizarra, porque es una palabra que normalmente las personas tienden a pronunciar incorrectamente. Yo creo que es importante que todos sepan pronunciarla bien. esta palabra tiene dos letras C en su escritura. You spell it A-C-C-E-P-T. But this C here has the following pronunciation. K, like this. So, it's AK. Hasta aquí, hasta la primera C se pronuncia AK. Y después en la segunda C, que se va a pronunciar como un sonido, como sería un sonido de una letra S en español, sería aproximadamente así. Accept. Accept. This is one exception to the rule, right? Of course, in order to have a rule, we need to have exceptions, and this is one of them. All right? So accept is not the same as immediate. In the case of immediate or immediately, we pronounce only one M. I mean, it's only one M sound. And here, in this case, we do have two different sounds. All right? Good. Let's continue now. So we have seen so far a number of questions. I would say more than 15 questions so far. These are questions you would ask. I mean, you would probably want to ask of a famous athlete. Think about your idols. Think about famous athletes that you have loved for years. And in many sports, you know, and Cuba is a country in which we've had a lot of good athletes. Not only nationally speaking, but also at top, you know, at world level. And that is the case of a woman. A woman who is not, or who did not compete in an individual sport, but in a team sport. And I'm going to show you a picture now and some questions that maybe you would like to ask of her, and here are the answers. Here we have her. This is Mireya Luis. Mireya Luis, no está el nombre ahí, pero creo que todo el mundo la conoce en Cuba. Muy pocas personas puede ser que no reconozcan a el número 3 del equipo Cuba, a Mireya Luis. And here we have some standard questions that maybe sometime you would need to ask, not only of Mireya, but you know, of other competitors, other athletes. And here we're talking about someone who retired. We're talking about an athlete who is not competing anymore. She has retired. And here I have in black some questions, and I have in red some answers, you know, that Mireya may give if she is interviewed by someone, you know, maybe like you. So, and the J stands for journalist. Vamos a suponer que estamos en una entrevista de un periodista. Esta no es una entrevista real con ella, pero es información que sí tenemos de ella. Y estamos seguros que si Mireya tuviera que responder esta pregunta, pues respondería más o menos así. La J que aparece ahí en la pregunta es la J que viene de la palabra journalist, que es periodista. Let's write it on the board. So, the J here stands for journalist. It's the first letter of the word journalist. Es un periodista, una persona que hace periodismo, que en este caso entrevista a esta deportista. And then the M stands for Mireya, right? So then, when were you born? That would be the first question. When were you born? And the answer is what? The answer is on February 25, 1967. So she was born in 1967. She was active for many years. And now, as I said before, she has retired. So, when were you born? Y usted dirá nuevamente, porque esta es una pregunta que nos crea muchas veces confusión a las personas que hablamos español. ¿Por qué se utiliza una estructura de voz pasiva para preguntarle a alguien cuándo nació? O como en la segunda pregunta, ¿dónde nació? Ya habíamos explicado en clases anteriores que cuando uno habla una lengua y uno a veces quiere traducir o quiere tratar de decir lo mismo en las dos lenguas y compara las estructuras gramaticales que se utilizan, a veces esto nos crea un conflicto. Y es porque las estructuras gramaticales no son siempre equivalentes para transmitir un mismo significado en más de una lengua. En este caso, en la lengua española, cuando uno se refiere a nacer, es como que la acción se ve desde el punto de vista del niño que nace. Y por eso es que se dice cuando naciste, como que la acción la está haciendo el niño. Pero en el caso del inglés, se ve desde el punto de vista de la mamá, de la madre. Y por eso es que entonces se dice, si usted fuera a traducir palabra por palabra, sería cuando fuiste parido. Y se utiliza una voz pasiva porque la acción, como el sujeto de la oración aquí es usted, a la persona que se está preguntando, en la voz pasiva se sobreentiende de que esa persona no hizo nada. Ese ser vivo que nace en ese momento no hace nada, sino que la acción la realiza la madre. Y yo creo que lo verdadero es que es una acción que hacen los dos, ¿no? Pero bueno, en definitiva en inglés se ve desde el punto de vista de la madre y es por lo tanto que se utiliza la estructura así. When were you born? And then you would say, it was on February the 25th, 1967. Now, where were you born? I'm sure all of you know that she was born in Camagüey. You see, where were you born? I was born in Camagüey. And here we have a question that you would need to, maybe you would like to ask of many athletes. How tall are you? Estatura. ¿Cuánto mides de estatura? And maybe you know that Mireya is one of those, let's say, volleyball players who is not very tall. I mean, there are many other competitors in this sport who are taller than she is, but in spite of not being very tall, she was an excellent player. Let's see now some more questions about her. Y aquí tenemos más preguntas, un poquito más larga, está un poquito más cargada esta presentación de PowerPoint, pero bueno, creo que la pueden ir copiando mientras les voy explicando. So, the first question here that is being asked by the journalist is, when did you start playing volleyball? You know, in many cases you want to know that. When did you start playing volleyball? When did you get into volleyball? That's another way, and we already learned this question before today. So, when did you get into volleyball? When did you start playing volleyball? Okay? And then the answer is, when I was 10 years old. A lot of athletes in many sports, you know, they began their careers when they were very young. And that is not the exception. I mean, Mireya began to practice volleyball when she was 10 years old there in Camagüey. She was little, and then, you know, she became interested in this sport. I'm sure she had her idols, you know, she was inspired by some other competitors, maybe Mercedes Pomares, Mercedes Perez, who were, you know, the best players we had in the 1970s. And I'm sure Mireya, you know, learned by watching them play sometime. All right, and the next question is, what was your first major international event? And we know this question already. I mean, we know the word major. That is, what was your first important international event? And that was the Pan American Games in Caracas in 1983. She was only 16 when she competed there, and you know, when she started, people knew that she was going to be a star. At 16 years old, she did a wonderful job at those games in Caracas in '83. Next question is, what's your most important achievement in sports? Achievement, I think you know that already, es logro. ¿Cuál es el logro más importante que ha tenido en tu carrera deportiva? And I'm sure a lot of athletes would answer, you know, making reference to Olympic titles, Olympic gold medals, or maybe World Championships medals. So going to the Olympic Games and winning a gold medal is, of course, a very important achievement in anybody's sports career. And Mireya, she must be proud to be able to say that she won 3 gold medals at the Olympic Games. In 1992, 96, and 2000. You know, she won 3 gold medals and at the Olympic Games, and 2 World Championships medals. Look at the answer she gives here, winning with a double N, winning 3 Olympic and 2 World Championships gold medals. That's, of course, her biggest achievement. I'm sure that you would agree with me, all right? And then last question is, when did you retire? When did you retire? Here we have a question in the past tense. We know it is in the past tense because we have the word did here. So when did you retire? After the Sydney Olympics in 2000. So Mireya Lewis retired in the year 2000 after the Olympic Games in Sydney. So this is information about Mireya Lewis, all right? I'm sure you'd like to know more about Mireya, and I have more information for you here. I have some additional information about her that, you know, is not answers that she has given to questions, but it's just information that I've been able to gather for you, and I'm sure you would love to have, for 2 reasons. Because you're going to learn more about her, And second, because you're going to learn English, based on this information I'm going to show you now. Let's see. More about Mireya Luis. All right? This is more information about her. And here we see that she's known for her spectacular jumping power. Look at the word spectacular. Spectacular, similar to the word in Spanish, but we have a problem here. When we pronounce the word spectacular, a lot of people make mistakes because they want to put an E sound before the S sound in spectacular. Es un problema que tenemos la mayoría de las personas que hablamos español como nuestra primera lengua, que cuando las palabras en inglés comienzan con S y esa S va seguida de otra consonante, pues como no tenemos esa combinación en español de palabra que comience con S seguida de consonante, pues tendemos a poner una E delante. Siempre le hemos aconsejado a las personas que quieren pronunciar correctamente estas palabras que traten de poner ese sonido de la S, sonido S, como si fuera parte de la palabra anterior. Y usted diría, por ejemplo, her spectacular, you see here, fíjense que la palabra que está delante es her. Entonces, si usted pone la S, se hace la idea en su mente de que la S pertenece a la palabra anterior, no va a tener el problema que tienen muchas personas que ponen una E, o pronuncian una E que no existe. Okay? So then it would be like this. She's known for her spectacular jumping power. Jumping power, poder de salto. That's very important in volleyball. They need to block the ball, and for that, they need to spike. You're going to learn that word now. Okay? So, she had a spectacular jumping power, reaching 3.39 meters, alcanzando, o sea, es un poder de salto espectacular, which she had, and she was able to reach 3.39 meters. So, she would be able to hit a ball that would be that high. Of course, when you can do that, you're able to hit the ball higher than the blockers from the other team. And then you may succeed when you spike. All right? And then, that, as I have here, that was the highest of all players. Okay? No other women at that time, was able to do so. All right? Were able to do so, I'm sorry. So the highest of all players at that time. Then, second thing is, se ganó. She earned numerous best scorer, best spiker, and best player awards at World, Olympic, and Continental Championships. What's the meaning of best scorer? La mejor anotadora. Ustedes saben que en el voleibol, aunque no es el curso de deporte, en el voleibol se anota de muchas formas. Con el saque, con el bloqueo, con los remates, de muchas maneras. Y ella fue reconocida, como dice ahí, en muchos lugares, en muchos torneos, como la mejor anotadora de su equipo, o del torneo en general, de todos los equipos. Then it's the best scorer, anotadora. The best spiker es la mejor rematadora. Spiker, rematadora, and the verb rematar is to spike. Look at the verb here, to spike. Spike, rematar. Spiker, que es la palabra que tienen en la pantalla ahora, es rematadora. So she was the best scorer, the best spiker, and the best player at many international events of all sorts. Olympic Games, World Championships, and continental tournaments, all right? Like maybe the Pan American Games and other events in which she took part as member of the Cuban team. So I'm sure you have enjoyed, learning a little bit more about Mireya Luis, who is now a member of the International Olympic Committee, a commission of the International Olympic Committee at present. And she's still involved with volleyball in Cuba and the Cuban National Commission as well. All right? So we're going to go now we're going to talk now about another important athlete, a very important athlete at present. So far, we have talked about Mireya, who has retired, who's no longer competing, and I'm sure you've learned about her. But now, we're going to learn about another athlete, someone who has become, I would say, the most famous athlete in the world today. And I'm going to give you a hint. He is Jamaican, and he is, a competitor in athletics. I'm sure you know who I'm talking about. I'm talking about Hussein, all right? I mean, Usain Bolt, all right? I'm talking about Usain Bolt, a Jamaican sprinter who has become a celebrity now, who has become the most important athlete in the world today, I would say. Maybe you disagree, but I'm sure most of you would agree that his performance at the Olympic Games in Beijing 2008 and also last year at the World Championships in 2009, all of these performances have made him, let's say, famous, and he has earned a lot of international recognition. Okay, let's see now. This is the man we're talking about, Usain Bolt. Okay, from Jamaica. Look at his uniform. He's wearing here the typical Jamaican uniform of all the athletes who represent this country internationally, mainly in athletics. I'm sure most of you were able to see, the races in which he took part at the Olympics. Okay, he was a competitor at the Olympic Games in Beijing and later at the World Championships, and he was able to break the world record twice. First of all, at the Olympic Games, and then when he ran again at the World Championships, he broke a couple of world records as well. All right, I'm going to show you now part of an interview that he gave, and these are real answers. A diferencia de la entrevista de Mireia, que fue una información que teníamos y hicimos como una entrevista, y estamos seguros que Mireia, si nos está viendo, estará de acuerdo en que esa información ella lo hubiera dado más o menos igual. Tengo la suerte de conocer a Mireia, y eso creo que es un privilegio, y me gustaría mucho si pudiera estarnos viendo y viera que estamos haciendo reconocimiento a su historia deportiva tan destacada. En el caso de este deportista de Jamaica, la entrevista sí es real. All right? So then, what is it about Jamaican guys that makes them run so fast? We know that it's not only Usain Bolt, okay? We know that there are more Jamaicans. In the 1970s, Donald Querry was a very good sprinter as well. He broke a world record in the 200 meters back in the 1970s, and that record remained there for many years. I think he was the first human being to run this distance in less than 20 seconds. I'm not sure, but I believe so. So then, here's the answer. Look at the question here. What is it about Jamaican guys that makes them run so fast? ¿Qué es lo que tienen los jamaiquinos? ¿Qué los hace correr tan rápidos? Que les permite, que hace que corran tan rápido. Okay? It's a small country. If you compare the size of a country, you compare the size of a country and the population of Jamaica with the size and population of other bigger countries, you will wonder, how is Jamaica able to produce such good runners? Well, here's the answer. I'm sure that the first sentence is a joke. Estoy seguro que la primera respuesta que él da es como si fuera un chiste, es una broma, ¿no? Porque él dice, I think it's just what's in the water. Water, el agua, es como que el agua que toma en Jamaica. Okay? I don't think that would be, the real answer. But he's telling a joke here, I would say. I think it's just what is in the water. And then he explains. Track and field is one of the major sports. What is the meaning of track and field? Track and field is the same as athletics. Okay? Track and field, athletics, the same thing. And he uses here the term track and field because the sport combines two things. The track, la pista, and field, el campo. All right? Track and field is one of the major sports. Major. Again, the same word. The word major here again. So track and field is a major sports. We've got football, cricket. Cricket is a sport that is typical of the countries that were British colonies for years. Okay? You will find cricket in Great Britain, in many of the Caribbean islands whose first language is English, and also in, I think it's in India and Australia, New Zealand. So these are countries that used to be colonies of Great Britain. And the sport, which originated in Great Britain, spread around all of these places, all of these countries, and that's why it is so popular. So Usain Bolt is saying here that they've got football, cricket, and also track and field. All right? We don't know much about cricket in Cuba. It's a sport that may look similar to baseball sometimes or to football some other times. It's a combination of, rules that we don't know very much about. But, this is a sport that is very popular in the English-speaking countries. Basically, the islands in the Caribbean, as Jamaica, right? So then, track and field is one of the major sports. We've got football, cricket, and track and field is getting bigger. So more athletes are really getting into it. And we have once again here the expression get into. Fíjense que ya hemos hablado de este verbo que tiene después una preposición, get into, que significa como meterse en ese deporte, o sea, adentrarse en el deporte, practicar el deporte, to get into a sport. So he's using here some language that we have taught today already. All right? Once again, we've got. Y vamos a regresar a ese comienzo de oración. We've got. That's the same as to say we have. It's another way to say we have. We've got football, cricket, and track and field is getting bigger. So more athletes are really getting into it. Fíjense que aquí un poco usted dice, pero se me queda la oración inconclusa. Después empieza hablando de otra cosa. Tenemos we've got football, cricket y de pronto me empieza otra oración. Y es porque es una transcripción que se ha hecho de una entrevista que se da oral. Y ustedes saben que cuando las personas están hablando normalmente, o sea, en la comunicación oral, hay momentos en que hay incorrecciones, hay oraciones que no terminan, que hay elipsis, o sea, eso es propio del lenguaje de la comunicación oral, no solamente en inglés, sino también en la lengua nuestra, en el español. Ustedes verán en la próxima clase que vamos a dar, en que sí vamos a tener una entrevista, que usted va a ver un video, que también sucede esto con la persona que está siendo entrevistada, que es un nativo del inglés y que por supuesto comienza a hablar, de pronto su pensamiento va más rápido que la palabra en sí, y entonces pues comienza a hablar de otra cosa y nos deja un poco inconclusa la información. But that's the way it is. I mean, we do this in Spanish, we do it in every language we speak. All right? Good. So then, so more athletes are really getting into it. We've got this school championship, school championship. So this tells us that he's talking about what happens in schools. I mean, it's a sport for young people. And of course, you're going to say, well, we do have the same in Cuba. Yes. Okay. So we've got this school championship every year. And it's so important to everyone. So it means that in Jamaica, a lot of attention is given to track and field, and to, learning how to run and to jump and so on at school. And then, so they really work hard with the kids, and that's why a lot of talent comes out of Jamaica. You see here? So they really work hard with the kids, los niños, the kids. And that's why a lot of talent comes out of Jamaica. Talent, similar to Spanish, I don't need to say what it means in Spanish, but we agree, I'm sure all of us agree, that lots of talent comes out of Jamaica in this sport. Okay? So I'm sure you were able to copy. Anyway, I'm going to give you now a few more seconds to finish copying this. I think it's important that you have it. Come on, copy. So here you saw that, Mr. Bold talks about working hard, okay? And what does it mean? I mean, when you talk about sports and you say that people work hard, what do we mean by that? Let's see. Sportsmen, I mean, athletes in general, they need to do many things in their preparation. Now let's come to the board, and maybe, you would like to learn some new words also having to do with this preparation that they do. So, the athletes, when they train, they need to have physical training or physical preparation. It's the same. Physical training, which may be general physical training, and why not also specific physical training. The training that they do, when I talk about physical training, is of two kinds. It's a general physical training that would enable the athlete to endure the whole training session, and also what they call specific physical training, which has to do with the muscles they need to use for their sport. Muy rapidito, para que comprendan la diferencia, vemos physical, está el general physical training, and the specific physical training. Vamos a quitarnos un poquito para que puedan verlo mejor. General physical training and specific physical training. The difference is that when it is specific, it means that the muscles that are going to be working here are the ones that this athlete needs to train to do and to participate in his own sport. Like, for example, if you're a runner, of course you need to work harder with your legs. I mean, if you are, for example, a shooter, your upper body needs to work hard, but you also need to get your lower body ready because you're going to be standing for long hours. Your lower, the lower part of your body won't be shooting the bullets, but it's going to be holding the whole body all throughout the competition. So you need to have both kinds of training. Also, you need to have the so-called technical training or technical preparation, which has to do with the execution of all of the movements you need to, to do or to make. During your sports competition or training as such. So it's physical of two types, technical. There's also the tactical, training, but also the psychological training. So it's physical, technical, psychological. These are the main, kinds of training that athletes have to do. Hay otros tipos de preparación un poco más específica que, por supuesto, si estuviéramos dando un curso de deporte, habría una persona que las explicara mucho mejor que yo. Pero bueno, estamos haciendo referencia a los aspectos que son más importantes en la preparación y nos interesa sobre todo la manera en que se escribe. Usted no está aprendiendo aquí acerca de deporte, sino que está aprendiendo inglés a través del deporte. Y quiero que aprenda entonces a escribir physical con PHY, physical, and it is pronounced with the Z sound, physical training, technical with the CH, but you pronounce only the K sound, technical, and here psychological. Look at the spelling of psychological, psychological, okay? PSYCH, that's the funny beginning, all right? So again, physical, technical, and psychological. I'm sure that Usain Bolt, when he trains for his events, he does all of these kinds of, training. He gets trained physically, technically, and why not also psychological. I mean, I would say he's one of those athletes who is very, psychologically fit. He's all the time thinking that he's going to win, and that's very important when you're an athlete, okay? So, have you finished? I'm sure you have, all right? You have learned here words which I think important, and then I'm going to go on now. Let's see. We have now some more information. Another question that was asked of Usain Bolt. Okay? Look at this. How does it feel when you become an instant celebrity? Yeah, it's a very, interesting question about the reaction when you have become an important person, a famous athlete in the world. And the question is being asked of him, so that he gives his opinion about how he felt when he became all of a sudden, he became the most important athlete around the world after the Olympics. And then he says, well, it's been great. Ha sido muy bueno, it's been. Ya habíamos explicado cómo se pronunciaba la palabra been hace unos días en una de nuestras clases y decíamos que era con una I bastante cortica, relajado los músculos a la hora de pronunciarlo, porque si hacíamos con una I de la llamada I larga, que tiene un nivel de tensión en los músculos de la cara cuando se van a pronunciar, estaríamos diciendo frijol y no estamos diciendo entonces sido, ha sido muy bueno. Well, it's been great, as you see here. This is the final, the gold medal won by Mr. Bolt at the Olympics in Beijing in the 100 meters competition. All right? So then, well, it's been great. I enjoy everything, though not the interviews and a lot of stuff like that. So, does Mr. Bolt like interviews? No, he doesn't. You see here, he does not like. Fíjense cómo él dice, aunque no las entrevistas. Fíjense la palabra aunque. Otra palabra con una ortografía un poco compleja. So then it's though, T-H-O-U-G-H. Though. Okay? It's not only the spelling that is difficult, but also the pronunciation of the word though. And it's a word that you pronounce with a the. This combination of TH in spelling, when you pronounce that, you need to use what? You need to use your tongue, you need to use your teeth. Okay, it's the. Y en este caso hay vibración de las cuerdas vocales, sería así. The, though. Though not the interviews, though not the interviews, and a lot of stuff like that. Okay? That's what he says. So, we have learned, from this question here and his answer, how much he likes or dislikes interviews, now that he's celebrity, somebody who's well known around the world. Okay? We have some more about Usain Bolt. Come on, let's see. Here we have another question. How isolated do you feel now with your fame? Fame, similar to Spanish, there's also a film, an American film called Fame, that maybe you've seen. How isolated do you feel now with your fame? ¿Y qué querrá decir esta pregunta? Aquí tenemos la palabra isolated, que significa aislado. ¿Por qué ustedes creen que hace esa pregunta? El periodista. ¿Cuán aislado te sientes ahora con tu fama? Quizás pueda ser, vamos a decirlo en inglés para ver si lo pueden entender. Maybe he's asking this because he believes that people, when they become famous, all of their friends walk away and they have no friends and they're now on their own. They're isolated. Maybe not for this guy. Maybe not for Usain Bolt. All right, look at this. Are you able to just walk around freely in Jamaica? So maybe the journalist doesn't believe that an athlete like Usain Bolt will be able to do so. And we'll see now the answers. It's good. Yeah, they enjoy seeing me. They enjoy seeing me. Enjoy followed by an ing. Ellos disfrutan verme. They enjoy seeing me. But if I just pop up on the road, what would that mean? Pop up. Ustedes quizás los que trabajen con computadora o tengan la posibilidad de interactuar con una computadora, a veces verán que hay algunas pantallas que van saliendo así que uno no las espera. Para eso también se utiliza la palabra pop-up, o sea, ese verbo, en este caso, pop-up, y aquí sería como si yo me aparezco en la calle, o sea, si yo salgo, o sea, algo que se hace de manera inesperada, que las personas no esperan que vaya a aparecer, then, but if I just pop up on the road, it's not a problem, okay? So, people would not come to him, but, it's when they know I'm going somewhere, then everybody shows up. Show up, similar to pop-up. Todo el mundo aparece. To show up. Okay? Another verb that is a combination of two words. A verb plus, in this case, an adverb. Okay? So, when they know I'm going somewhere, then everybody shows up. And I wanted to notice here that when we're using everybody, then we need to use an S in the verb because everybody is third person singular. Maybe you remember that. Okay? So, again, it's when they know I'm going somewhere, then everybody shows up. Normally, I just go on the road. I'll get stopped, they will take pictures, I will sign autographs, all of that. Estas son las cosas que pasan. Miren, lo paran en la calle. I'll get stopped. Es una pasiva con get. I'll get stopped. They will take pictures, of course, of him. I will sign autographs, all of that. You know that happens. Para los famosos pasan esas cosas, ¿verdad? Firman, le tiran fotos, lo paran, firman autógrafos, etc. ¿Ok? Esas son cosas que suceden. Yo creo que mientras he estado explicando han podido ir copiando. Vamos a ver entonces ahora una última información que tenemos aquí acerca de Usain Bolt. Creo que sería interesante que lo copiaran, si lo quieren copiar, si esta información, la primera es solamente su fecha de nacimiento, ya hemos aprendido a decirlo, but in the second case I have new language. World and Olympic record holder. Record holder significa recordista. Record holder. In the 100 meters, the 200 meters, and the 4x100 meters relay. Ya esa palabra la dimos. Relay, la dimos hace unos días. Relevo de 4% con Jamaica en los Juegos Olímpicos de Beijing. He's the first man to win 3 sprinting events. 3 eventos de velocidad. 3 sprinting events at a single Olympics since Carl Lewis in 1984. We talked about Carl Lewis already. And Carl Lewis did the same in 1984, but our friend Mr. Bolt did it now in 2008. Okay, he's been the first one. All right? And then the media call him Lightning Bolt. What is the meaning of lightning? Relámpago. Fíjense, the media means la prensa. Los medios de difusión masiva lo llaman Lightning Bolt. Okay? So, new language here, record holder, sprinting, Lightning Bolt. Okay, for you. So, today you've been able to learn about 2 important celebrities in sports. A retired competitor who was the best for years in volleyball, international volleyball, a Cuban, a pride that we have, Mireya Lewis, and then, you know, the best athlete today, Usain Bolt, who is Jamaican, as you know very well, who is the record holder of many, of 3 important events in athletics, sprinting events in athletics, and who has become a celebrity, who has become the most important athlete just overnight, de pronto, así, de un día para otro. We've learned also some other things, pronunciation, spelling, also some information about athletics and sports in general. And I'm sure, as I have, you know, that you have enjoyed today's lesson, and I want to invite you to another lesson with the same topic, the one we're going to teach next, in which you're going to be listening to an interview given by an athlete of a sport that is not in the Olympic program. So I want to say goodbye now, and I want to wish you a good day. Bye-bye.